That's weird.
My son is watching porn. That's what it is, probably.
Yo, YouTube. Welcome back to another episode of First Time Watching, coming to you right here from my YouTube channel, Comic John. I'm your host, your director of distraction, your creator of confusion, John Hassinger. And what is First Time Watching, you ask? It's exactly what the title says. We dissect, dismantle, and most importantly, discuss classic movies that for at least one of us, it's our first time watching. And it is an absolute privilege to have you join us on our nerd network from around the globe each week for all the videos we post from First Time Watching to the Mandalorian Review Show. I have spoken, news, briefs, hot take movie reviews, and yes, even trailer reaction videos. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell your grandmother, and joining us as always on First Time Watching live from South Carolina, my Nicaraguan Neo, Cornelio Monjarez, aka CJ. CJ, thanks for joining us, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
And also joining us, my spiritual Han Solo, Andrew Benfer. Andrew, glad you could make it tonight. We were a little worried you weren't going to be here. What mug is that?
Cheers. I mean, is there a better one? It is Contest of Champions, Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, and it's even got like the wing on his helmet as the handle. That is beautiful. So, guys, first time watching. We previously did Star Wars. CJ watched the whole original, I don't know what to call it, both trilogies, basically, in the machete order. And then we all did Rise of Skywalker. And now, in preparation for The Matrix 4, I am going to do the Matrix trilogy. And we're going to start tonight with the original from 1999. Starring Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, The Matrix. Oh, guys, my brother was into this movie like I'm into Star Wars and Marvel, and I was turned off by it originally for two reasons. Number one, it's too much green. And number two, the leather suits and the sunglasses. It wasn't appealing to my eyes, so I was just like, eh. And then when I started watching it, or tried to watch it like casually, like my brother watched it 1,000 times, he watched it every day for like a year. And I would come in and out of the room and try to like pick up what was going on. And mostly I was like, this just looks like a superhero, like action movie with crazy special effects I've never seen before. So after watching it for the first time as an adult, I was blown away and really disappointed, but also I understand that my brain back then would not be able to have like comprehended all of that or even appreciated all of that. Probably the best idea of the future and AI combining like where we're going to be like with both of those things and even climate change and nuclear weaponry that I've ever seen. So my first question, and obviously we're just going to keep digging into this as we go along because the movie is so symbolic. It just like makes a million references throughout the whole thing. For example, the White Rabbit, an Alice in Wonderland nod, a symbol that you're to be chasing something. Is that what they were doing to him? Was that kind of like a thing they were doing to make him take notice? All the White Rabbit appearances?
Before we dive into that, the White Rabbit, which is a great question about the White Rabbit. I'm excited to do this trilogy because I understand, after getting to know a little bit more about your obsession with Star Wars, why would somebody get obsessed about a movie? And I remember why you got obsessed about Star Wars at the beginning. You told us you were young, a kid, but it was an introduction for special effects to you. Things that didn't exist are there. This was, for me, my Star Wars. Okay.
Yeah, it was like it allowed your imagination to know, hey, there's no limits, just whatever you can come up with.
Exactly. The first time ever that I saw behind the scenes and how the technology works was with this movie. And the references of it as well, I think this is one of the best storylines. Wachowski's sisters are geniuses. I appreciate their genius. I appreciate what they've created and what they've done. So thank you for being me part of this because I love it. So there is a lot of references to different pop culture, and the reference with the White Rabbit is a nod, just like you said, to Alice in Wonderland. You will see some of the interpretations and answers that we're going to give you, that Andrew and I are going to give you, is really based off what we want it to be. It really allows you, this movie allows you to get your imagination, your philosophical mind going. What does it really mean? For me, it is the aspect of Alice in Wonderland. It was always, if you read the book, supposed to be a dream. Alice thought there was reality, and the reality she was going through was never reality. That actually she was within a dream the whole time. Getting into the rabbit hole, right? Following the rabbit, which is what Alice does. Alice in Wonderland gets into the rabbit hole and gets into Wonderland, chasing the white rabbit. You asked, did they impose in your first question that you always allow us to prepare? They're making him see that. No, they're not. She is a real as to what reality supposed to be. She's just real. She is part of the world. One thing, as you can see in the movie, now that you've seen it, you have an oracle, right? Somebody who has foreseen. So there is the assumption that not only the oracle has shared some aspects of the future with Morpheus, because he has spoken with her several times, not only when he went to meet her, but every single time he brought somebody to her, every time that he brought somebody to his team, they went to see the oracle. They only got not only snippets of the future, but Andrew is gonna probably have a better explanation of this. It is the sensing of the matrix, the sensing of the code. They can see everything. So if they know that Neo was dealing with this guy and they need him to go to that club and they know that they frequent the club, they're going to give him a reference for him to follow. And what better way to earn their trust to reference something that it was not as obvious as a small tattoo of a rabbit. She does have, the rabbit is real, her tattoo is real, she is real. No, they're not making him see it, they're not interposing that in her. They cannot change the matrix. So it's not something they can go ahead and put on her. No.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of the symbolism is that, Wachowski brothers, they knew what story they wanted to tell. So obviously they're going to influence it with those things that we're aware of. To the characters within the movie, do they really fully gauge that? Who knows? But, our interpretation would be that they're aware of what's happening. There's a symbol right there that they can use to trigger and to get him to go further down that hole because, I think some of your later questions might have, one of them was, I'll summarize. I don't have it right in front of me, but it was asking around like, is Neo aware? Like, how does he know of what the Matrix is? And he is some kind of super hacker, right? So he sees code. Obviously, we learn later, and even further as you get deeper into the trilogy, that he has a very different perspective on coding, right? So I think for him, he was aware because of that familiarity, which, I think for him he had already been, his interest was obviously already peaked. So it's like, okay, follow white rabbit. Well, there's a white rabbit. Well, I'm going to chase this because this breaks me from the mold of life that I'm in, because we saw him as Mr. Anderson, your late Mr. Anderson, to work the next day, right? And he's obviously not happy with his reality because he knows there's a different reality that does exist. At least that out of body experience of understanding there's something more than just this, I'm a robot and I'm going to go, or machine, right? And I'm going to live through this day. So I think it's a nice sprinkle. And I also love the foreshadowing of a sarcastic comment that the one guy had made about giving him the disc that would allow him to hack a bank or whatever the guy's going to go do. And he's like, hey, you're my own personal Jesus Christ. There's so much of that religious sprinkling and symbolism all through this whole movie, really, that was pretty cool. I guess, it was fun for me because for me watching this movie, Cornelio, he may tell his story later of kind of his experience pre-America and post-America for The Matrix. But for me, 20 years ago, this is one of the last movies I remember watching with my dad as being a very impactful film, and just understanding the faith aspects that are sprinkled through this. And of course the nerdy side. I mean, let's not forget about that. I'm obviously a nerd.
Of course. That's why I was like interested in it in the first place. But then again, the green.
We'll touch the green. That actually, I'm glad that you noticed the green, because the green is very important. But the next question you sent us was, what is the Matrix, within quotations? How did Neo know to ask that? Andrew touched on this really quick. So Neo is a super hacker, right? The guy, it is a genius when it comes to hacking. Not only he is a genius in it, he knows of other geniuses. Why he recognizes Trinity and he says, oh, Trinity, the one that hacked the IRS. And he said, I thought it was like a guy, and most guys think that. So they all know these hackers, and that's usually how it seems to be the Morpheus finds them. Is they are in the hacking world, they're in the dark web world, and these
They're
are people that
that are like seeking something else.
and it's more, yeah, that there was an itch to find what's out there, and there is that sense that there's something else because they, like Andrew said, they don't see the reality like we do through coding, through the computer system, through the internet at the time, which is funny because we're talking about 1999 when this movie came out. Internet is a toddler at this moment, right? The internet is not a teenager yet. Not the way we know it. And they're presenting as an aspect of it that it is great. And like you said, now it's relevant to this day. So what is the Matrix? There's people that have, and you see this with his team. Other people have found snippets of something that is not normal, and it's known as the Matrix. And as you go through the other two movies, it becomes this importance of how do some people know what the Matrix is. It becomes very important. And you yourself, John, remember your own question, especially Reloaded, Matrix Reloaded, because it does a very good job of answering these questions of how is it that somebody like Neo would know that there is something out there called Matrix. He senses it, he can see it, he can, through coding, he's involved in it, and he's calling for him, and he wants to know more about it. So
when you were talking about Alice in Wonderland and all the references about, and going down the rabbit hole and finding, the Wizard of Oz references were scattered all over there, trying, like Oz is the rabbit hole, is the Matrix.
Your next question is, are they hacking his mind, and is that why he keeps waking up after encounters with Mr. Smith and Trinity? No, they're not hacking his mind. At this moment, they're not doing anything to his mind. The waking up is really just movie editing. They don't want to show you that after he spoke with Trinity, he went and got drunk, probably made out with a few chicks, and then wake up hungover. No.
So they were there. They were in the Matrix.
They were in the Matrix. Yeah. Trinity was there. He actually interacted with a real Trinity. Everybody else could see Trinity. Trinity was not invisible to anybody else. She was there. Your next question says, did Trinity tell him Morpheus would be calling?
I don't think so. You may have a different answer, Cornelia, but I mean, again, they're kind of sprinkling these bits to catch his interest. Because if you remember a little bit later, my interpretation again, and this is where there may be variances in any of these questions to answers that are vague between us is our interpretation. But I mean, you notice that later in the film, they talk about how they don't normally pull adults out. It's all children, right? So they've got to sprinkle that interest. I think that they've got to keep him kind of on that lure. And I mean, look, he looked confused whenever he first answered the call. So my thought is that he didn't know that she was going to call, or that he was going to call. But Cornelia may have a totally different response.
I was just worried that I just didn't catch if Trinity said to him, Morpheus will be calling, and I just didn't notice it. Because he was like, who is this? Is this Morpheus?
When I see that interaction, I thought that she did. Remember, at this point, he thinks that these are hackers.
Right.
He doesn't think that there's any
has no idea.
Supernatural or out of the regularly, just hackers. So, he's thinking if a hacker's going to contact me, how's he going to do it? A burner phone. So he knows FBI or CIA or anybody who is in the government is not going to contact him that way.
Just because when he picked up the phone, he was like, is this Morpheus? And he was like, you know who I am, or whatever he said. But it was like, how did he just guess the name Morpheus?
He knew Morpheus. Morpheus had a reputation as a hacker, just like Trinity did. Yeah, if you see on the screen, has some.
I knew I missed something.
Some screenshots of newspaper articles.
You know what? I'm going to admit this, and I'm ashamed. For the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie, I may not have been able to sit still and was kind of doing other things in the room to get ready. And I'm sure I missed a detail or two.
And don't feel like that. We all did. I told Andrew, I can watch this movie for the 50th time, and I'm going to see something that now that I understand even more about the movie because of the trilogy, the game, the story, the books, the comics, everything, you're like, oh wow, that is such a. And this goes to my previous comment. I think the Wachowski sisters are geniuses. Almost every scene, every shot was intentional. There was something there, and they could tell a lot with a little bit. Like I, for example, right now know he knew about Morpheus because Murphy was a hacker, just because of those couple of screenshots on the computer that Neo was searching for. There were articles about Morpheus with a picture of Morpheus in it. Your next question, you asked, did being a super hacker lead Morpheus to the conclusion Neo is the one? Andrew, what do you think?
I just wanted to circle back with your statement about every shot being intentional, and that was my feeling when I finished this movie. I was like, I don't think there's a flaw in this movie. God, there was like no fat at all. It was like the most, just like constantly a question would pop up, then an answer would come, then a question would pop up, then an answer would come. And it just kept going, and it just kept expanding, and then it ended, and he flew up like Superman.
One of the things that I think is a lot of fun going through this and looking at your questions is, I was 13 when this movie came out. So my 13-year-old brain versus 33 is like obviously slightly further developed, right? Just a bit. So interpretations and interpretations and just understanding of just life and things around us it's fun to be able to go back to this, and then also obviously realize that this movie actually holds up. I mean, there's some weird CGI-ish things, but for 20 years ago, it holds up better than movies that came out 5 years ago, 10 years ago and stuff. But to your question, you were asking, did being a super hacker lead Morpheus to the conclusion Neo is the one? So the way that I interpreted my understanding of this is that, they tell this, Morpheus tells a story about a man being born within the system and it being the one, right? So looking at some of those religious parallels, understanding that in our life, in my life, through my own experiences, through experiencing my children's lives as they're getting older, I see sprinkles of God in everything. Like it's just amazing to see it within my own life where he's been. So when you look at that from a coded perspective in the Matrix, obviously if Neo is the one, or there is someone who is the one, take Neo out of the equation, there is someone who is the one, you're going to see those brush strokes of creation, yes, of influence. You're going to see these things peppered all throughout. So from a coded perspective, you talk to anyone who's a programmer, and I'm not, but you talk to anyone who's a programmer, it's easy to recognize other coders' work because of the way that they write their code. So to recognize Neo being a unique hacker in this experience, he's seen his work before. Now, the Oracle probably gave him what he needed, not the specifics, because we know she's not specific, but the elements of information that he needed to know what to look for, right? Yeah. But through that, he at least had enough confirmation that, he was bullheaded from the very beginning. Like this is who it's supposed to be. Yes. Without a doubt. He is the most faithful person probably in the entire movie.
Andrew touched a great point. The Oracle tells Morpheus, you will find the one. So Morpheus has no doubts in his mind he's going to find him. And Andrew just says he just needs to find that one thing that identifies this person to be the one. Did you notice, John, all the religious references of the movie?
Yeah, it was like nonstop.
So if you remember in Book of John, in the Bible, when John the Baptist recognizes Jesus Christ, everybody else thought that, some people thought that John the Baptist was the Messiah, as some people thought that Morpheus was the savior of Zion. And he's not. John the Baptist recognizes who Jesus is. Morpheus recognizes who Neo is. And he's the one who's telling everybody he is the savior of us, Zion.
Sounds kind of familiar, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
There you go. Exactly. The super hacker, I actually believe, as we can see it with Neo being impressed with Trinity, I think the Trinity was a better hacker. The hacking had nothing to do with him being the one or not. Like Andrew said, I think that it was just his better code. Neo himself.
Oh, just his own code.
So you remember when they're looking at the screens, they don't see people. They see coding.
Right. They see.
So how Neo is coded, the way he was created in the Matrix, it's what I agree with Andrew. I believe that's exactly what Morpheus can see. There's something he can do and see that is different. You will see a little bit of aspects of other sensing capabilities in the other movies. It will become even more obvious, the differences between one and the other. So the next one, I think this was more of a comment for you, which I like it. So has a movie ever in history presenting this many questions in the first 20 minutes? No, it is
Dude.
insane. Just the opening scene.
And I realized that like 20 minutes in, I was like, no wonder they cast Keanu Reeves to play this movie. He's the most believable, like, I don't know what's going on, actor in Hollywood. And that's how he is. And so are you those first 20 minutes. So you're kind of like, okay, we both don't know shit together. This is fine. At least we're together.
And anytime we're doing these, I'll probably bring up plenty of stories of watching it with my dad. Just a lot of great memories. I remember, and I believe my dad had seen it. He had definitely seen the movie before I'd seen it. We were watching it on DVD, so it was not in theaters. And I remember watching Trinity running to that phone booth, and like such an intense scene. And the first thing I said was, "You're an idiot. There's no phone call that important. I don't care if it's whoever." It's just, and that was my first reaction, just pure reaction, right? And then of course I find out that that's how you're dialing back out of the Matrix, right? Why is he scaling a building? Why is he doing this? Like,
right. Like, what the hell are they talking about? Are they fucking with him? Are they for real? Who's lying? Why does his mouth all of a sudden just disappear?
Isn't it cool though how the first few minutes, the first scene of Trinity running from the agents is super confusing, but it gets all answered at the last scene when Neo is the one running from the agents, because then you learn like, oh, the agents can become the people if they see them.
Yeah.
The agents can become whatever person is inside the Matrix if they see what they want them to see. So they're tracking Trinity, and the homeless guy sees Trinity, then the agents can become that. It's like they dial in. They do a drop in, just like Alexa can do it. So yes, it is confusing in that first scene. Andrew, that scene is, I was thinking the same thing when I watched it. What is she doing, killing herself, running in front of the truck? Also, what a coincidence that the agent was driving that truck. And then you find out at the end, oh no, actually that was a driver that saw her. The agent became the driver and tried to kill her. It's confusing. You're right. At the beginning, it's super confusing. You have no idea what's going on.
They hold your hand through the whole process with Keanu.
Yes.
So, obviously where we're at in our questions, Neo's with them, right? We fast forward a little bit. He's gone through the agent experience. His mouth is molded together. They put the tracker in him, right? And he's in that car scene. And I think this is a really important scene that happens in this movie. And I think there's a few different ways to look at this, and just like many other scenes. So they're in the car, right? And Trinity's talking to him, and he's obviously still a little bit confused, but like he's interested. And there's that moment where, and I'm sorry that I can't remember the exact line that was shared, but there's a part where he just wanted to eject from this, and he just opens up the door, and it's raining. And Trinity says, "Are you sure you want to go down that road? Like, you've been down that road before. You know where it leads you." And I never, the previous times that I'd watched it, I never really fully gauged that and understood that, maybe just because I was younger. But my understanding of that scene is like, hey man, that's back into that machine world. That's back into the Matrix, right? You're just going back into the rhythm of, my name is, Bob, and I work at the gas station. Like, you're going back into the mold of just this reality. And it's like, is that really where you want to be again? But also, they're on the outskirts, right? He'd be going back in towards the city, which is where the machines have the most influence and sight and visibility into what they're looking for. Right now, they're away from everything. They're off some vacant street. So there's like a parallel view of like, you've been down this road, but also it's really not safe because you're just going back into the heart of the machines. Like, that's why they go to some crazy abandoned building, I just thought that was interesting.
But the red pill, Morpheus calls it Wonderland. Is Wonderland outside the Matrix in the future, 2199?
No. He was making a reference to something that Morpheus, that Neo would understand. It says, hey, you want to see how you're chasing the white rabbit? That's how this started. Do you want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes? Yeah, I'm about to blow your mind. He's trying to gain his trust and trying to make Neo feel comfortable, and I think he's using references that are easy for him to understand.
He's like, take this pill and you'll be out of this like pretend reality.
So he's referencing Wonderland. He's referencing, we'll tie in the scene where he's touching the glass, right? And it's going into his body, right? So when you consider going into Wonderland, right, going deeper into the rabbit hole, he's just referencing that to understand, like, hey, this is about to be a trippy ride. I need you to be ready. I need you to understand, like, what this experience is actually about to be. So
Right.
the pill, to go deeper into that, you know, in that scene with the glass, I think honestly the significance there is when you consider the story Allison through the looking glass, she falls through a window in that story. So that's just another, you know, props
The
to Lewis
Looking
Carroll's
Glass.
imagination. So
I forgot about the Looking Glass. Duh.
You also mentioned in that question about the mirror, the significance of the mirrors. Are they trying to showcase special effects? I actually think that they are too. In that mirror, it could have been anything. Yeah, they said, "Hey, we can do this. Let's show them what we can do." I thought for me, it helped me transition from what I thought was reality to the make believe. So at that point, I thought that he's heading to the virtual world. So doing something fantastic where you can differentiate, this is reality and you're about to see something that is fantastic. Let's do it with a very drastic transition. I think that's what it helped me. It made me think, okay, we're not in our reality, we're heading somewhere else. You did ask about the red pill. So the red pill is just a tracker, actually. I think that Morpheus explains it in a scene after they find him. When he takes the red pill, it's just a tracker that they put on his code and allows him to be found where he actually physically is in the Matrix. The blue pill would have been just you'll wake up tomorrow. That's just a very heavy drug, and that's it, and we won't bother you anymore. At that point, Morpheus knew that he was going to take the red pill. I think everybody knows that he's going to take the red pill. It gets referenced again. I don't know if you remember the Judas, the one that betrays them. Cypher actually asked him. Sometimes when you think, why didn't I take the blue pill, right?
Yeah.
Because he regrets it. Yes, he would have loved to forget it.
Ignorance is bliss.
That for me is the best eating steak scene in the history of movie making. Sometimes I take a big piece of steak and I eat it with my mouth open to savor the flavor, just like you do with wine. You're just sucking the air. Because of him, because of Cypher and that scene, and when he says ignorance is bliss, and I've used it so many times in my life as a reference of I prefer not knowing.
Every single time I take a bite of steak, I think of that scene, and it's the reason that I order steak medium rare, even though that was like rare.
No, that was bloody as bloody can get. Yeah. But he teaches you, if you're enjoying a piece of steak, I hope that I look, sound just like he does at that moment.
Yes.
It's orgasmic, very orgasmic. So the next thought.
I liked how they had a weird name for their ship, the Nebuchadnezzar, or was that what is that? Is that their ship?
Yes, that's a ship, and that's my favorite question that you had. So, you put here Nebuchadnezzar. Is that their Millennium Falcon? So I laugh, and Andrew laughs as well, because this shows just your love for Star Wars, where you're like, that's my Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
I never have thought it that way at all.
Of course.
The Nebuchadnezzar is more a relevant character as the movies go on. So that will let that answer itself later on. But the Nebuchadnezzar is actually another biblical reference. Yes. Nebuchadnezzar, which it doesn't spell the way you spelled it. It is very convoluted. It is actually in the book of Daniels, and it is the king of Babylon, the destroyer of cities. So there's a lot of references, and this is left to interpretation, philosophical interpretation of why they use the name Nebuchadnezzar, the destroyer of city. It has anything to do with Zion, which is referenced as well. Andrew actually can give you a great theory that he has about it.
Zion. I kept hearing Zion.
Your interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar, Andrew, you told me the biblical aspect. You did, and you did such a great job.
Honestly,
I was like,
this is why we probably shouldn't talk before the show.
You should. No.
Now it's gone.
Now it's gone.
It's out of his head. I like the idea of the residual self-image, because when I would walk in and out of the room and catch bits and pieces of the Matrix, I was like, what the fuck? He's a shaved head, and then and a knot in the back of his neck, and then he's like a superhero. Like, I don't get it. But it's like your self-image. It's like how you see yourself in your head all the time. I guess like throughout your life. So he had like, good hair, huge penis.
Huge penis. Yes, exactly. He
But
gets.
my favorite scene was when Morpheus just tells him everything. And my interpretation of that
Mhm.
was that at 2100, basically, we kind of created the perfect artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
And the perfect artificial intelligence, if evolution proves anything, would try to wipe us out and take
Yep.
over. And because of the war, they couldn't run on solar power because the sky was all smogged up and polluted. So, in order to survive, they used our energy because humans create like enough energy to like light up a city. And now they're creating us and using that as energy. And that's been
Yes,
going on for like roughly 99 years. That is insane.
it is. The theory itself is very unique and is very the plot
Insane.
is very creative. Yes. But at that moment, imagine this 20 years ago, we thought that's insane. Oh man, AI becoming artificial intelligence becoming that powerful and doing all that. And here we are now with devices that can control an entire home. They can, they learn more about me more and more and more and more. My phone can um, predict where I'm heading and tell me how to get there without me saying anything. So it was very foreshadowing, actually.
It's
Um,
funny. You talk about
uh,
Google listening in on us through all the different devices, right? But the agents were doing that through the body, the people that were plugged into the matrix. Like they were the Google
Mhm.
listening before Google listening happened.
and I just
That might
love
be
how
too
they
deep.
the machines just started creating us in these pods, streaming a pretend world into our brains. I don't even get why would they do that?
So your last question has to
So
do with the
we have like
pods.
a life.
You said if you escape those pods, does
Yeah.
the robot always assist you with escape? It's more of a
Yeah.
Well,
cleaning thing.
but before we go into that, hang on.
Oh.
John had just asked the question though about why were we projected reality? And if you remember Morpheus talking to Neo when they first came out of the jump simulation, and he was like, "Oh man, why did that hurt?" He's like, "Your body can't exist without your mind. Your mind can't exist without your body." So we couldn't have just been brain dead batteries because it wouldn't have worked.
Hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
The two are
shit.
synced with each other.
Yes.
That's my
Gives
brain.
you
My
chills.
brain is splattered behind me. You just can't see it on the wall. Precision. I like how I misspelled prediction. 99. It's been this way for 99 years. Neo will end the 100-year war. That's just my prediction.
Well, that is what the oracle says. That's actually what the prophecy says, that he is there to save Zion, to save the human race as it is. So we'll have to see on the next installments if that's the case. Now there's a fourth installment, so they're doing. So now you have to ask yourself, does it actually end on the third one or not? We'll let you decide that.
I can't wait to
So
watch the fourth one together and do it like a Rise of Skywalker, like we did.
Yes.
That's gonna be great.
So your last question that you'd sent us was the kind of the second part to what we were just talking about. So the if you escape those pods, does that robot always assist
Yeah.
with your escape? So one of the things I learned about this scene that I didn't when I was 13, and they say it right there in the movie, but maybe I just didn't really fully understand it. Anytime there was a death or a um, what's the word I'm looking for? A death or
A death. A
not
death or
just a
a death.
death, a death or some kind of an issue. Like obviously Neo just woke up, right? When there's a death
Mhm.
or there's some kind of an issue like that, they're rejected and flushed out into that river. And through that process, they're actually liquefied and intravenously fed back into the human battery systems.
Oh, recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just recycled cannibals, basically.
So how did he slip through? I don't remember.
Remember? I've been chosen, the claw. Toy Story, sorry.
Yeah, but
That's all I can
why
think
did
of.
that claw
There's
get
a
him?
what
I've been
well, that was
chose.
the Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, that
That's
was
the
the Nebuchadnezzar
Nebuchadnezzar.
coming in to pick them up. And I think you had some interesting. I don't know if you remember, but when you were watching, you had some interesting questions around that. that whole scene. I know for me, I'm just wondering, like, why are they clothed? Why do the robots actually, the machines actually care that they're decent? Because if you notice in the scenes, he's wearing like a diaper basically. Like, why does that really matter? And then when the claw's picking him up, like, I feel like you're just losing your manhood. Like, I just feel really uncomfortable for him, because not to mention is he in a back-breaking position, but that claw just looked uncomfortable. But that's
yeah,
just
I know.
Sorry.
I love your shirt, by the way.
Sorry, fellas.
Rocket and Groot.
Actually, I disagree. He is actually fully naked. So I challenge you to go watch it again. What you see is the claw between his legs.
Oh, right. I think
when he goes down the chute, you see the diaper on him. You see it. I promise. I was looking for it. I promise. Not that I'm like.
We'll have to look for it. I think it's for editing then and that, man.
There's
That's
a
probably a
deleted
mistake.
scene where the machine is giving him a diaper like a baby.
That's giving a diaper. That is right. Yeah, I think they're naked. So we have to go see. If you see a diaper, it might just be bad editing and they forgot to take out the diaper part of Neo. But that would be a good follow-up, and maybe we can discuss it on the next one. So, John, any other questions that it has come out since you watched it? Anything else that is still confusing?
No, because and that's what's so insane about this movie. Obviously, I put if you escape from the pods, does the robot assist you with your escape at the end, because it was funny. And it was I didn't know. I thought I missed something. So I thought the answer was obvious. Because it happens earlier in the movie. At this point, when I understood what was going, when Morpheus explains everything, with the machines taking over, I had no questions. The movie was such a very kind spoonful of delicious ice cream, bite by bite, but not until I was ready. And it satisfied, it's satisfied at every turn. And then when he goes like that and stops all the bullets and they drop, I was like, "Mah!" And it was 2 a.m. and I was rocket shipping through my house. I just loved it. So I had no more. After that, I was I don't have any questions. I know what's going on here. It's such a genius concept. And they're nailing the theme, the whole verisimilitude, everything made sense in the little globes, and you knew when they were jumping back and forth and how they got back and forth. The telephone thing was the only, how are we going to do this? Because that was the only thing. It's well, how do you jump back and forth? But it was cool. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was cool. I just thought it was the old
internet was dial-up
telephone trick. Oh yeah, that's right.
So,
but
now in my life,
one other statement.
Yep.
We did a show on the podcast where we were kind of debating what is an action movie, or what are the best 90s action movies, and is The Matrix considered a 90s action movie, because it was in 1999, but it was not anything like those, big popcorn blockbuster movies that came before it. This was so deep and intelligent and layered and complex. Obviously, it took me 20 years to watch it again and understand it. So that just it was The Matrix ended an era and began a new one.
That's a great point. That's a great way to see it. Yes. So just like we discussed this with Star Wars, how Lucasfilm had to create in his special effects company had to create new technology and new techniques of filming. It's the same thing for The Matrix. That scene with Trinity staying elevated and then the camera going around it. It was the first time they created that machine, and it was several cameras, dozens of cameras shooting the same shot at the same time, and they move it. That was created for that movie. The effects with the bullets. How often after that in pop culture, the rings of the motion of the bullet is used in movies, or as a reference of The Matrix. How
even
often
when he did
have you,
that move?
Yes, when they said, "Oh, it skips, avoids bullets like Matrix, like Neo," everybody knows that. And like you said, it doesn't matter if you've never seen the movie, You know Neo, the scene of him uh, avoiding the bullets. The For me, one of the references that I will never see this ever again, just the way this Matrix sees it. It is a deja vu. And now when I see something that happens again, I always wonder, oh, there's a glitch in the Matrix, right? Because of the cat.
I had always heard the term, that's a glitch in the Matrix. And I understood the term. I was like, oh, yeah, it's like when something weird happens and it's kind of like a deja vu thing.
Yeah.
And then when I saw that black cat, I was like, what the fuck? And then I knew it. I was like, it's going to happen again. And then it did. I was like, that's the fucking glitch in the Matrix that I've been hearing so much about. And that even points to what you said, Andrew, like every shot is intentional, like just showing a cat walking through a doorway. Even that's extremely intentional.
There's a couple of questions I had for you. So you did notice the religious references, which now that you know there's really intentional religious references in the movie, pay attention to those in the second and third movie, because it goes even deeper into it.
Growing up Catholic, I see religious references in everything. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like I didn't write them down or take note of them because they're just everywhere.
Yes.
And in all storytelling, there's parallels.
Well, now we know one thing. Neo is our savior, and that's one of the biggest references that they make, and it continues in that direction. Did you notice one thing? This is again part of a good, not only filmmaking, but good plot writing. Just looping the story all over again, where this movie could have stayed as a standalone movie and it would have been okay. I think we'll all be fine with it. The story has an ending to it, but then of course allows for sequels as well. The last scene where Neo tries to escape and he heads to a room with a phone. Do you guys know what room that is?
No, I can't. I can't see it in my head.
That's room 303. That's where Trinity was on the beginning scene.
Whoa.
It'll just go back to that.
Whoa. So it's just like, oh, is this going to just keep going on over and over until it escalates into Reloaded?
Not quite. It was just, I thought it was a good reference. It's where everything begins, when it ends. When it started, it all ends, which we know now it is actually the beginning of him realizing who he really is and accepting it. But I thought that was a really nice touch, how they have their own Easter eggs on their own movie.
Yeah, really.
So tell me about the green screen. What problem you have with the green screen? Because you mentioned it a couple of times.
I was just like, is that a hologram poster or is that just like the regular color? Like, I know this is like a trippy movie, but like, what are they doing? It's like this off green, and the color was just, I don't know. It looked like it needed to be cleaned up or brightened up, or I just didn't like the green hue to all the like marketing and maybe even in the movie itself. And again, when I was in and out of the room, I didn't like when they were in like the leather suits and like the sunglasses. And then as I was watching it, I'm like, this is so fucking cool. They're in like their superhero costumes now. I didn't like put it together when I was younger, like an idiot.
Well, the green screen is its own character. The green screen is the Matrix. So the green screen is completely 100% intentional. The green screen only shows for you to know as a viewer they're in the Matrix. The green screen never happens when they're outside the Matrix.
I didn't even notice.
When they're in the Nebuchadnezzar, it's blue. It's a regular screen. It's regular lighting. The green screen is supposed to simulate what a screen in 1999 will look like of a computer screen. This big CPUs will have that regular tint. Yes.
Wow.
So,
I have an eye and I don't even know it.
The green filter is his own character. It's letting you know we're inside the Matrix. At this
They
very
do
moment.
that. They do that in the movie, some drug movie, Traffic. They do that in Traffic. In court, it's all blue. In the desert, it's all yellow, and somewhere else, it's something else. But
Yeah.
there's a filter.
It's like any other reference, when a movie maker wants to let you know that you're looking into the past, it's a little bit blurry, it's a little off focus because you're supposed to be remembering that. It's the same
Black and
thing.
white.
This one has to do with the Matrix. Regular color screen is blue, computer screen is green.
All right. Well, anything else, guys? I really am excited about Reloaded. I wanted to watch it, but then I was worried that we would start, spilling into it by accident when we were talking about this one. So I'm glad that we got to do The Matrix up next. Matrix Reloaded. I guess we'll shoot for the weekend or next week, whatever you guys can do. I'll watch it probably tomorrow, just because I can't wait to see it.
My favorite
I'm
of the three.
I'm curious in Morpheus. I'm a little worried about Morpheus, but I like him. At first, I didn't like him. That was another reason I wasn't interested in The Matrix. Morpheus. You can see his face, and I don't know. It's just too close up on his face. I was like, all right, get back up, Fishburne, back up. And I just couldn't understand what he was saying. Go on.
No, I can continue on about this movie. Sorry. I can't stop.
Go ahead.
For me, okay, so this is what Andrew referenced earlier on, and I think I told this story before, but I love to tell it many different times. For me, this movie was two movies. English movie with Spanish subtitles. When I watched it for the first time in 1999, I was 14 years old and I did not know English. So I watched it all with subtitles, reading it. Now, you're going to watch Reloaded, and I watched Reloaded also with subtitles. And the script gets even more complex. So,
oh no.
For me, when I watched The Matrix the first time, you have the scene on the elevator when Trinity and Neo are trying to save Morpheus.
Right.
And Neo grabs Trinity, and he's about to shoot the brake, emergency brakes for the elevator and let it go down to the lobby and explode. Previously, he had met with a kid that says, don't try to bend the spoon. Just know there's no spoon. A spoon in Spanish is cuchara.
Cuchara.
Cockroach in Spanish is cucaracha.
Cucaracha.
They sound differently, but they look very similar when you write them. So when I watch that scene and Neo looks up and he says, there's no spoon, I read it when I was 14 years old as there's no cockroaches. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. This guy, superhero guy, is scared of bugs, but he's convincing himself that bugs don't exist. They're not real because of the Matrix.
Spheres, baby.
So that's great. Years later, I'm watching this movie on DVD here in the United States. I know English, no subtitles. And he goes, there's no spoon. And my mind is blown. This entire movie makes even more sense now. This time, not the second time. I don't know how many times I watched it, but now I know English and I actually understand that he's saying there's no spoon.
That is insane.
That is insane. And then I think I've talked to you these aspects when we were recording for Star Wars first time watching. It has so many philosophical aspects in life that it has to do not only religious and about what you believe and prophecy and all, but one thing I love that it touches, it is how every action has a reaction and how is it that you can influence that, and it goes deeper into that and Reloaded.
The build up to the finale, the payoff where he wins. It was similar to any classic pro wrestling match where there's a fake win and then another fake win and then a huge win. And Match is over, and that's how the end played out. The final, the last half of the third act was just so good.
Yes, it is. When it comes to me, though, when I pay attention to an action has a reaction, the and the genius again of the filmmakers. When Neo walks into the room, the Oracle's cooking, and she says, "Don't worry about that vase."
Right.
And he turns around and he breaks it. He goes, "What vase?" And he hits it and breaks. And he goes, "I'm sorry." And he goes, "How do you know that?" And he goes, "Don't worry about how I knew it. Now it's gonna blow your mind is thinking, would you have broken if I would have said anything?"
I know.
Right? So it is insane. You really think you can just think of that moment of that in your mind, it just melts of overheating.
I thought when she said that line, I was like, I'll never write anything interesting. I can't come up with anything close to that.
No,
So
it's
good.
whoever decided to say, "Oh, you know what, let's add this one aspect in the movie that it is so subtle but so impactful."
And what
You know,
a great character that Oracle was. Like kind of
Mhm.
like this tricky know-it-all. It's like I can't. It's kind of like Doctor Strange. Like I can't tell you what happens, but
Mhm.
I'll kind of like say things to lead you in the direct. Like
Yeah, one way. You're right.
oh,
Well, she put such an emphasis on the small things, right? She's sitting there talking about how good the cookies smell, and it's like there are no cookies. Like this is all fake, but she's still nodding to something so small, but has so many emotions tied to it. Warm cookies. Grandma's making warm cookies in the oven. It's like
whoa,
there's a greater picture here, but
whoa. Yeah, right.
saving
She just looked
saving
like
tech.
your sweet aunt who was just always making something awesome in the kitchen on the holidays.
Yeah.
Or
Not
maybe
only
grandpa.
that, what about the kids? Now, when you put in perspective, she is a little bit using those kids because we know she knows Neo is the one. But those other kids are there because supposedly they're researching to find out if any of them
They're
are the
younglings.
yeah, those kids have some form of power. So they're trying to find out those kids are the one. But she knows it's Neo. But she also knows Neo's gonna come, and she cannot tell Neo that
Right.
he is the one. In fact, she
Right.
tells him, "You are not," because that's what you need to hear to become the one. So
Right.
even the kids are put in there as a distraction, telling Neo, "Listen, we are looking for these kids to be the one. We know it's not you, so we're looking for these kids." And she knew all along that it was him. She could have done the same thing to Neo and tell him, "You're not the one without those kids," but she decides to do it in there just to play with his mind, which is necessary for him to become the one. So
Hmm. Well, I'm really excited for Reloaded, but I am also excited, or I'm really interested and curious about a scene that, it's just impossible to avoid hearing people talk about something, that you haven't seen that's popular. Uh, the architect.
mhm.
Like I've listened to filmmakers and television writers and directors and producers, reference the architect scene. Like, don't tell me, show me. So I'm like, what else are they get? How deeper are they gonna get than what Morpheus told Neo? So that's another thing I'm really excited for. That's from the third one. Is that right? The architect scene.
It's from the second one.
Oh, shit. I am definitely going to watch tomorrow. So let me know, guys, when you can join me for another episode of First Time Watching. And I want to thank you, too, for joining me again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your grandmother's mistress she's a lesbian. Just face it. I am Comic John. You can reach me at the Comic John on Twitter. Cornelio, where can everyone find you and send you spam?
My Twitter is at Cornelio CMC.
And Lord
COR.
Bentha, what about you? Where can everyone find you? Don't worry, I'll have the graphic underneath the screen, CJ.
I don't know my Twitter. No, mine's at Lennon B Weasel.
Can you explain what Linen B Weasel is?
Basically, before I had children, I played Xbox a lot to the point that I was actually a part of a like a clan, essentially, of all friends, people I knew, And I don't remember where. It was a late night banter of where do we go to change our, when we go to change our name or our gamer tag on Xbox, like what's a theme we can follow. And I don't remember how we got on it, but I think I just randomly mentioned, oh, we could be the Weasels. And somehow it came in. It might have even been, so Xbox suggests very random names, and I think we were just maybe even cycling through the random dumb names that it gets. Really dumb stuff that it suggests you. And I think it gave me part of that thought, and I was like, oh, we could be Lennon. I could be Lennon Weasel. Oh, Lennon B Weasel. Let's be more specific. And then my buddy was like Velvet B Weasel, and then we had a Kevlar B Weasel. That was Rob Kelsey.
Different fabrics.
Stephen Lewis was like Denim B Weasel.
Cotton B Weasel.
There was a Cotton B Weasel. Yeah, it was. I'm the only one that's kept a gamer tag.
I think it's funny. It's so unique. I needed to know the story behind it because I was like, Lennon B Weasel. Like that was a night with a bunch of friends with no girls around. That's how that name came up.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. We will see you for Matrix Reloaded. I love you. Bye.
Oh, hey. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and hit the notification bell. And if you're finding me for the first time, I do trailer reaction videos, hot take movie reviews, news briefs on anything Marvel, DC, Star Wars. You'll love it. Thanks.